Hey, what's up, guys? It's Yogs. And the San Antonio Spurs, yeah, they look pretty scary. And I get it. I know it's the preseason, not playing the best competition. People aren't, giving 100%. But I have been watching them a lot lately, and I think they look really good. Wemby is clearly figuring things out, and I am pretty sure he's going to make that leap to the next level. You have Dylan Harper, the rookie that they drafted at number 2 overall. He looks amazing, and honestly, he might already be a star in the making starting right now, his rookie year. They brought back De'Aaron Fox on that big contract. You have Stephon Castle, who looks really solid, and they flat out have better talent around that boot now. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a good team. The only question is, how good can they be? Are they going to make a huge leap in the NBA? And the big picture is, with Victor Wembanyama, it's not about the next couple of years. It's about the next decade. And the dominance, it could start this year. And I've been kind of wondering where I put them, right? I have them at a certain spot right now. But last year, Houston made a huge leap. Nobody would have thought that they would finish as the number 2 seed in the West, and yet they did. And they brought in Kevin Durant this offseason. They're looking like a championship contender. I know that the West is stacked. We'll get to that. But it's a good team. And things in the NBA, well, they can go sideways pretty fast. If any team can leap, it's a group led by Wemby with a ridiculously talented young core around him. And where does it all begin? Well, you guessed it. It's with the Frenchman. It all starts with Wemby. By the season's end, I think he will for sure be a top 5 player. And when your best guy is at that caliber, everybody's floor and ceiling, well, it just gets significantly higher. And over the summer, there's a bunch of those ESPN top 100 lists and, whatnot. Then I personally had Wemby around the 7th spot. And could it be the hype? Yes, it could. But to me, he's been a top 10 player since last year. And this year is just going to prove that even more. And I think after this season, it really won't be a discussion, right? I think he will be a top 5 player in this league for sure. And if you have him anywhere outside of your top 10, you're insane. I'm just sorry to tell you that. Now, if we look at last season, if it wasn't for that major injury, that deep vein thrombosis that he had, he was going to win Defensive Player of the Year, and he was going to be at least an All-NBA second team, if not first, right? He was putting up 24.5 points per game, 11 boards, 4 assists, and 3.8 blocks, while shooting 35% from 3 as a 7'3" player. It's actually ridiculous. And I think early on in the season, people were actually not liking how many threes he was taking. He was taking around, and I think early on in the season last year, he was getting really criticized for the amount of threes that he was actually taking. People were mad. They were dogging him on social media, but he ended up finding a rhythm. And just over half of the season, right? What he had his injury around, February, if I'm not mistaken. He had hit 142 threes, which is the same as Karl Anthony Towns. And at that pace, over 42 games, we're looking at just over 250 threes made, which would have ranked him as the number 6 player last year, ahead of Jason Tatum, ahead of guys like James Harden, Zach LaVine, volume 3-point shooters. And while all of that is going on, he's also unstoppable near the rim and as a shot blocker, as a rim protector. So for the preseason, he looks stronger, he looks more decisive, and honestly, he's taller, right? He's listed at 7'4". Last year, he was listed at 7'3". And there's been a lot of people saying that he's even taller, right? That this listed number of 7'4", that's not even his real height. There's a lot of NBA players, including, Boban Barjanovic, just said that he's most likely around the 7'6", maybe 7'7" height, which is actually insane to think about. But the game is slowing down for him. He's reading his teammates better, timing his spots and getting where he wants, and understanding the NBA at a higher level. And this year, I would not be shocked if he finishes an All-NBA first team, one defensive player unanimously, and for this year, I would not be shocked if he ended up an All-NBA first team and a defensive player of the year unanimously. Because to me, I think he should be a 3-time defensive player of the year had he not gotten hurt last year, and had he not been robbed his rookie year when Gobert won it. This would be a three-peat. And like we just said, I would not also be shocked if he hit around 253s, 243s. If he has bad efficiency, if that 35% from the field goes down to 32, we're looking at 223s. That's crazy. We might be looking at a stat line of 27 points, 12 boards, 4 blocks. With this crazy amount of threes. And if that's not a top 5 player in the world, well, I don't know. Let me know in the comments what is. They have De'Aaron Fox, right? So De'Aaron Fox he had a couple of down years in Sacramento. He was not happy. He kind of forced his way out last year before the trade deadline, and he kind of made it abundantly clear that he wanted to play in San Antonio, which he's smart, right? It's a place where he actually can be competitive. And playing next to Wemby, the best player he will ever play with, for sure, should make things a lot easier. I still like Fox, although I think he's a bit inconsistent, but I don't think he has to be that guy like he was in Sacramento, especially with, Wemby, of course, and Dylan Harper. But I'm still a believer of De'Aaron Fox. I like him. So I think, I hope he does well. They have Dylan Harper as well. And like I said, he looks really good. He's the consensus second overall pick, had Cooper Flag not reclassified. I think Dylan Harper would have for sure been the number 1 overall pick, no doubt about it. So it's not shocking that he's really good, but it feels like he already understands the NBA right off the rip. The playmaking has been really impressive. There's burst getting downhill. He's finding teammates on the perimeter. I think we get a very fast development of an unstoppable two-man game between him and Wemby, and he's the perfect fit guard going forward next to Victor Wembanyama. And the way the San Antonio Spurs roster is kind of built right now, it does spark trade conversations, right? He is a combo guard. He can play the 1 or the 2, but you have De'Aaron Fox, right? And you have Stephon Castle. Can they play all 3 of them at the same time? Yeah, they can. But they could look for, a mid-season trade, trading one of these good assets, which is definitely not going to be Harper, but you could look at a possible De'Aaron Fox or a possible Stephon Castle, to get another player next to Wemby, maybe a guy in the front court, possibly a power forward or something that the Spurs don't really have going on for them. So they can still make moves. And just remember, they have those Atlanta Hawk picks. So, I mean, the Spurs are in a very, very good situation to make and build a very good team. When we look at a couple of the role players, they got going on, you got Devin Vassell, and he's still a very capable scorer. With Wemby's growth and the full season of De'Aaron Fox, his role might shrink a bit, which lets him be a bit more selective, more efficient, and honestly, more dangerous because defenses will be busy worrying about Wemby, Fox, Castle, Harper, all of these guys. You have Harrison Barnes, who's a great role player. You have Keldon Johnson. He could bounce back from a down year. They got Carter Bryant with the 14th overall pick, which a lot of people said it was the steal of that first round, an impactful 3-and-D player from day one with a real chance to be a fully fledged starter in a couple of years, giving him two-way impact next to Wemby and Harper and whoever else is in that core. You got Jeremy Sohan and you got Julian Champagne as another couple of interesting role players. And when we look at some numbers from last year, with Wemby on the floor, the Spurs posted a 112.7 defensive rating over a season, which was about 12. And with Wemby off the floor, it jumped to 120.4, which was dead last in the NBA. Of course, you would expect a drop when you take a guy like him off the court, but the collapse, it was pretty dramatic. And this year, through free agency, I think they got 2 very, very capable bigs, right? So you've got Luke Cornett, who is a better option to soak minutes when Wemby sits. And they also went out and got Kelly Olynyk right after. He isn't a great defensive big, but he can raise the floor when Wemby's resting. And I also like both of them to play with Wemby as well, right? You can use Olynyk's shooting or Cornet's rebounding. Wemby kind of sit there and play, guard ball in the perimeter, which is something that he's incredibly good at for some reason at 7'4". And that also gives you a bunch of versatility and lineup looks, especially if we're talking about the playoffs. They're so young with multiple pop candidates and a top tier franchise player, an all NBA guy, let's say, first team that is. And honestly, they could land almost anywhere in the West. 3 or 4 is a bit too much. There's a lot. The West is kind of stacked. There's a lot of teams there, but they could finish in 5 or 6, get straight into the playoffs. I definitely think they will be a top 7 or top 8 team, a play-in team right there. In a video I made a couple weeks back, I actually had them a little bit lower. I had them kind of like that 10-9th spot, barely getting into the play-in. But the way they played during preseason, I'm bumping them up. I think they'll be, the 7th or the 8th seed when the season comes to an end. And getting into West, they are a deep, deep conference. You have the Thunder, the Rockets, the Nuggets, the Wolves, Clippers, Lakers, Warriors, and you have the Mavs. Those are 8 really good teams, right? But the Spurs can still, I think, jump them just because they have the best player on the court at almost any given time. But of course, with a team this young, you could have some cons, right? You have a young core variance, and how are they going to play throughout 82 games? You have possible regression or stagnation from certain players. The defense without Wemby, how is that going to work out? Right, their offensive ceiling. I'm really curious to see how they're going to put that starting five out there and how they're going to mesh with a bunch of guards. You have a rookie ball handler. Is Dylan Harper going to play the one, or is he going to be the combo guard, while De'Aaron Fox plays the one, and then, they switch up in the middle of the season? I don't know how that's going to work out. I'm curious to see who is going to be their point of attack defender, right? De'Aaron Fox, not much of a defender. Neither is Dylan Harper. Maybe Stephon Castle is going to be that guy. So I am curious to see. And of course, De'Aaron Fox also, he left the season. He went and got surgery on his thumb, if I'm not mistaken. So curious to see how that's going to play out as well. Because I think, next year, they're going to be better. They're most likely, adding another piece or getting crazy development out of these young guys from the insane star power that they already have. And either way, the Spurs are going to be really, really scary. The NBA should be terrified. I am glad that the Boston Celtics, which is my team, for those of you that do not know, are not in the Western Conference. So I'd have to see them every single year in the playoffs, just possibly in the finals when we get there. But yeah, guys, I mean, the Spurs, they look like the real deal. I'm not going to lie. Drop your comments down below. Where do you guys think the Spurs are going to finish? Are they going to make it straight to the playoffs, or will they be that play-in type of team? Let me know. As always, if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe. We're trying to hit those 1,000 subscribers. It really helps me out, so I highly appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.